Go ahead, Rabbi Chirik.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. What we're seeing now is a pattern that the desire for creation that existed before the first contraction in the essence of God is the same desire as is after the contraction, the first circle after the creation of the ruler, and the people who've studied with us understand what that means. The first circle is the entire vision of all of creation and in one glance from beginning to end, all of time, all of people, everybody's story all together. That's considered the big circle. Well, that's really the same desire as was before, but now it's God wants to make it practical. But at this point in time, it's totally hidden. Then the smaller circle of the gulim of the circles is basically this same idea, but now it's ready to be. It's still hidden, but it's ready to be revealed. So that's a differentiation. So we have now three desires. The only difference is the first one is not thinking to make it practical. The second one is thinking to make it practical, but it's totally hidden. The third one is thinking about revealing it. And then there's the revealed crown, the revealed kesef, and that's the same desire, but now it's revealed. And we discussed how when it's revealed, in order to create the end state that we want, God has to make a system of order, and that order is actually in the physical shape of a human being. How different emotional traits will house themselves in these different parts of our body, and that is the system of order where everything has its space. It's not like there's chaos when two things are conflicting, when everybody wants the entire space. But when everything has its place and nothing's of the essence, what is of the essence is the end goal. And therefore, since only the end goal is of the essence, the various components can be flexibly moved around in order to achieve that end goal. And that is order as opposed to chaos. So let's start reading inside, and we're going to explore further. And before we go there, just want to point out that if you're already in the level of order, and you want to convince somebody else that naturally exhibits a different emotion to work with you, there are two ways of getting that person to work with you. One person, you tell them, well, we both hold the same goal. So even though our methods are different, our emotions are different, but we both have the same goal. And therefore, how about give yourself over to this goal? The other way is, forget about the goal, but you have a certain trait inside you, deep inside you, that is the same as I have. Even though that's not your forte, nevertheless, it is what you are. So how about you reveal that? So the first one is we're nullifying a person to a higher goal. The second one, we're saying, well, do this because it is the real you in some extent. So we're going to see this inside now. Okay, Meata, right now. Now we're in the world of Atzilus, the world which is the world of order. It's the blueprint. So Yesh Lavan, now there is to understand Beprate Iskalulus, the parts of how the Esospheres, how the 10 spheres can become part of a whole. Iskalulus, holistic. It sounds like that as well. The Atzilus, the 10 spheres of Atzilus. V'tchila yesh levar inyan prate chischalkus haspheres liyud v'yud liyud. Now, the first thing we need to explain is that the 10 spheres, it's like a chord. So an octave is divided, it's one thing, right? But it has different notes. So the 10 spheres, each sphere has 10, and then each one of those 10 has 10, and each one of those 10 has another 10. So it's 3 layers. Now, when we started chapter 10, we spoke about 5 layers. Remember when we started learning chapter 10, we spoke about 5 layers? Well, now we're speaking about 3 layers. Kamoi, for example, chesed shebachachma, in insight, there are 10 parts, and we're speaking about the 4th part, which is kindness. So the Kai Governor, Gvura b'chachma, the same thing. The focus or the strictness inside, which is the 5th element out of 10 in insight, nischalek liyud, it also has 10 parts. Kihine, what do you mean? Why does it need 10 parts? Because to express kindness, you need different emotions to be able to express that kindness or the strictness. Because even insight is it's part of 10. For example, this means, for example, chesed v'gvura, kindness and strictness, shebachachma and insight, lahatis kalape zuchus oy kalape chayv. That is a motivation to turn the intellect towards merit or towards finding fault. V'chesed shebachachma lahatis kalape zchus. V'chesed shebachachma, and the kindness inside turns the intellect to go towards finding merit. Gamu kol miyud. That is also has 10 parts. Dahainu, this means kamei chesed v'gvura shebei. For example, kindness and strictness in finding merit is liskos befen kach. We will find merit in this way. Kach v'kach v'lochav yizchayev gamhu befen kach v'kach. And you will find fault in a specific way. Like we spoke last week, that a judge could say, you really did this crime, but since your history is it was very difficult, therefore I'm going to make the conditions of the sentence much easier. So in other words, he's being strict, but there's an aspect of kindness. And that is the idea of kindness and strictness in the mind. And that's why a person's emotional state will affect the way they think. So it's really hard to have objective thinking. In fact, we need other people. We need to have like a group critical thinkers that question everything, because maybe the reason I'm thinking this way is totally emotional. And a person could be thinking objectively, but even the turning to find merit or to find fault is kindness and strictness in the insight. And the same reason why something should merit becomes inverted as a reason to find fault in judgment inside, in other words, the strictness inside, you can use the same reasoning and you can use it in whichever way. And something which is considered a detriment actually becomes a virtue if you trigger kindness in wisdom. And this is even without making further divisions. אבל בישחלקוס יכול להיות גם חסד שבחוכמה בחיnas din. But if you divide it up into further 10, so then even in the kindness in insight, you could still, there's judgment there as well. Of a din shebachachma, and in the strict judgment of insight, which is the strictness of chachma, b'chinas chesed kiyudua, you can find an element of kindness. V'chein b'midas v'chesed gvur atzman, and also in the actual emotions of chesed and gvur, of kindness and strictness, chesed nechlach liyud kesach chachma bino midas. Kindness has 10 parts. It has the crown, has insight, has comprehension, and it has the 7 emotions. Now, the gam she'ein merachmim v'din, and even though there's a rule that we're not supposed to have compassion when we're sitting in judgment, hanubina atzmi, that's when the judgment is of the essence. V'chein ein din b'chesed, there's no judgment in kindness, ha'atzmi. In essential kindness, there is no judgment. Aval beis pashtusan, however, if that's like, but if we're speaking about a branching out, hispashtus, a branching out, mina etzam, from out of the essence of that emotion, then there's more flexibility. Yesh chesed bedin, you will find kindness and judgment, or bechesed v'din v'chesed, and you'll find judgment in kindness, because it's extremely flexible. So after tikkun, in the world of Atzilus, things can get very flexible in order to create dynamic situations. And that's going to help us reach the end state. V'hine, behold, yesh hiskadlus shenikra bitul davar b'hipucha. Now we're going to speak about 2 ways of making peace. 2 ways of the way we can work with other people, motivate other people, and that's because the way it works that way is because that's what happens in Atzilus. So there's the idea, bitul davar b'hipucha. You can nullify somebody to the opposite, hamanagde, to the one that he opposes, and the opposite becomes like him, mamish like him. I'm going to tell you a story, because I think I saw this a little bit, and this is going to, there's a Navy SEAL who continued his career as, then I know he continued his career in protection of religious organizations in the Middle East. And one thing he has as a trait is he learned how to be like bittul, like nullified. In other words, anybody could escalate, but that's not a wisdom to escalate, and that's not a really good way of dealing with situations. So there was one time he was hired to protect a certain group of people, and they're in a bar, and a guy in the next table says something not nice to him, and he like looks at him, and then he hits him. Right? Now we're speaking about an armed Navy SEAL that is hired in active protection. What he does is he says, you know, I am gonna buy your table of beer because I think I did something wrong, and I want to make up for it. I don't know what I did wrong, but I want to make up for it for now. Waiter, can you please buy these people a beer? And the guy that hit him obviously wanted to fight. He says, why are you doing this? He told him this. He told him this because I want to, I want to make up what I did wrong. He didn't do anything wrong, but there's a certain like nullification that he has in order to be in this type of work if he wants to be successful. And then what happened? The other people went into the bar that started to attack the the people that he was supposed to be protecting. So the situation became more complicated. But what happened is that the people that started up with him now decided to protect him, and they got up, and there were quite a crowd of buddies. They got up and they chased those people, chased the people that are attacking the people that this Navy SEAL was protecting. They chased them out. So they did the work what he was supposed to do. So this is the idea of this Navy SEAL um, doing this protection showed a lot of restraint and nullification. And this enemy, opposite type person, um, this changed and became like him, became a protector, became Kamoyo Mamish. Instead of being an instigator, they became the protector of the people that he was protecting. I hope that story helps. It fits in the words. Let's read the words. You nullify something in its opposite, which is an enemy, by a Kamayu Mamish, and the enemy becomes in the position of that person. This is like the idea of sweetening the judgment with kindness. For example, the person that is a what's it called? 1 second. The district attorney, Yahapech Lisnegers, changes over. So he's supposed to find fault and press charges. He gets changed over into a seneger, a person that speaks merit for somebody else. And the opposite could happen. Shaseneger, the protecting lawyer, the person that's supposed to find merit, he transforms himself and becomes a person that's like the district attorney is finding fault. An example of this is kamituk maim hamarim b'mesukim. Sweet, bitter waters can become bitter waters could become sweet. You can make bitter water sweet. It's a story in the Torah where they came when you're traveling in the desert and it's a lot of people. Water is very important. And they came to a place where the water was bitter, but he put something bitter inside, and he changed there was a reaction, and the water became sweet. The opposite can happen. You can put something sweet into the sweet water and it becomes bitter. And you can also have an intellectual nullification where there is a reason to find merit. However, the person bows his intellect to the opposite, to find fault. And there's similar things like this. And this is a real way of creating a holistic unit from different parts, opposite parts. And the reason why you can get this opposite person to do this transformation is because he had it in him all the time. The reason why you can do the opposite transformation is because they had in their parts. See, it's a 10 parts. So the bitter waters has in it an aspect of sweetness, and that's why it could become sweet. And something bitter and something sweet has an aspect of bitterness, and it could become bitter because you have a little bit of that, and that can become dominant. Right? If a person didn't have that in him already before, he wouldn't be able to become nullified. Because in everything sweet, there is a hidden bitterness. Vamiris yesh mesikas, and in bitterness, there is sweetness, behelim, in a hidden way. So you can make what's hidden dominant. For example, there's a famous dish which they used to eat at that time in Russia of honey and radish. So in fact, the bitter taste of the radish makes the sweetness even greater. I know there was a certain candy that the kids really liked, and it had an aspect of bitterness, but it becomes even better than sweetness itself. The best example that we probably know is the idea of lemonade. What is lemonade? Water, lemon, and sugar. Now the lemon is bitter, but when you add sugar, it becomes even better than eating sugar alone. In other words, the bitterness of the lemon makes the sugar even more sweet and better than sugar alone. Let's read the next few words. Shenasa tamarevis, it becomes a taste, a beautifully mixed taste. Kernel, which includes in itself charifus, sharpness, or masikas, and sweetness yacha together. And we're saying is because the lemon deep inside has an aspect of sweetness, and that's why the lemon could be made um, into excellent lemonade. Can you do it like it's known? And similar, there is fire inside water, umayim be'esh, and water in fire. What is fire inside water? Well, you have hydrogen. Water is made out of H2O, so two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. If you use electricity to separate the water and the oxygen, you're gonna have um, you're gonna have hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen will burn. So there's fire inside water, or mayim be'esh, and there's water in fire. In other words, if you burn hydrogen, what happens is the byproduct is water. If you burn hydrogen, the byproduct, it reverts back. The byproduct is water. So there's water in fire. Al and therefore they can interchange with each other because there's a little bit of aspect of water inside fire, and there's an aspect of fire inside water. There's fire inside water, or water inside fire. For example, it's written that he actually took water from fire, and he took out fire from water. Just use electricity, and you can do it too. And so too in the emotions of kindness and strictness, because there is. Now, the reason why we can do that with fire and water, that's because on a higher level, there is judgment. There is an aspect of judgment in kindness, and there is an aspect of kindness in judgment. Canal, like we've mentioned before. Al ken yuvutal hadin bechesed. And therefore, the judgment can now become nullified to the kindness because it has that potential inside it. Or the opposite, kindness can become nullified to the judgment. If it didn't have that aspect on itself, it could never make peace with the opposite. In Toyo, they can't make peace so much because hiskadlus midin b'chesed mipnei shu kamayu ba'etzem. Now we're going to explain there's a second way of nullification of judgment in kindness because of the intent. In other words, they agree on the intent because kimoyu be'etzem, it's really they're working for the same thing. It's of the essence. It's not that he nullifies in his essence. We're going to deal with the question soon. It's not that I put myself aside, like the story of the Navy SEAL, where the antagonist, the guy that hit my teacher, so it's not that the antagonist nullified himself. This is not the same case. This is because the reason why the antagonist nullified himself, because deep down they're very similar people. It seems like both of them were in this the field of special forces, but from two opposite armies, right? But there's a different way. Then he nullifies his essence. Adarabba, on the contrary, they have the same goal. They realize that the opposite actually strengthens their power. And it's still considered strictness and kindness. It's considered, or the opposite, kindness, chesed shebegvura. It gives more power in the gvura v'din. Let me explain. This is a typical compound emotion that a person is doing an action. The first one is an action for the intent of. Let's read this again. Gvura in kindness. In other words, the action is strictness, the intent is kindness. And similarly, the opposite, chesed, the action is kindness, but the intent is to damage. In other words, the extra kindness makes the strictness even more powerful. It's like a spy that's being kind on enemy territory. He's being kind to members of the other country, influential members of the other country, but that kindness is actually allowing him to create greater damage to that country. Who, and I'm going to explain the matter. He says, I'm going to explain it. It's like it's known. Al derech imrav seinecha. On a spiritual level, it says in the verses, if your enemy is hungry, achilehu lechem. If your enemy is hungry, feed him bread. Ki gachalim, because hot. I didn't look up the end of this verse because gachalim is hot coals. What is this story? The story is that Esther should never, if your enemy gets hurt, you should never laugh. Because in heaven, they're going to say, why are you laughing? Good, he's damaged, but don't celebrate that. Don't celebrate people suffering. And here's a case where Haman wanted to kill an entire people. So because Esther gave him bread, she fed him. She never ever asked for him to be killed, by the way. She only did kindness, and she only said her story, a true, honest story. She never asked him to be damaged, and she gave him bread. So what happens in heaven, they're saying, wow, this guy wants to hurt you, and you're being kind to them? We better do something about this. Right? So that kindness of feeding bread, the intent is to hurt, the intent is that the person should get what they deserve. Strictness. Because this kindness that he's doing him, it's doing him bad. It's like a spy. Vidin Gomer, and it's causing a complete judgment. La'abed nafshe, to destroy his soul. And the opposite happens. People that God doesn't like because they don't do things that he likes, because their behavior is in things that he doesn't like. So what happens is God is actually kind to them during their life in order that should bring about their destruction, because everybody does something good. So God says, you know what, let me pay him for the good that he does in this world now. So he pays good to the people that he hates now in order that it should ultimately bring them destruction, because that person has no intent to be kind to God. Yeah. Gavin and similar things. Kol bechinas din ve'onesh shenase bechinas chesed. So in any judgment and punishment that a person does kindness to the person, to the one that deserves strictness, harihu ois v'tekev adin b'yeser. Harihu ois v'tekev adin b'yeser. This is the most strength and sharp and harsh judgment. It's kindness with the intent of causing strictness at an ultimate level. Sancheiriv was a world army like never seen before. The amount of people in their army was colossal. And what God bet, they prayed, and he was going to destroy Jerusalem, and the king prayed, Chezkiel, and trusted God. And God said, you know what, I'm not going to let this colossal king destroy Jerusalem. And what did he do? He revealed, he made heard Kailai, the beauty, his beautiful voice. In the camp of Sancheiriv, the king. And what happened is, the souls, he did kindness to them. He revealed his glory to the soldiers, and their souls enjoyed it so much they left their bodies. So he did kindness, he revealed his divinity to the soldiers of Sancheiriv. I don't know, it's some colossal amount of soldiers, and their souls left their bodies. Now the opposite can also happen. Strictness for the intent of kindness, because the action of the end state of kindness is done through an action of judgment, in order to make the kindness even stronger and make it more massively powerful. For example, the strictness of rain. In other words, in order for rain to be of benefit, of absolute kindness, gvures, the water needs to be divided in a strict way into droplets. That's the idea of gvures, not in a one gush. So gvures geshamim, the strength, the water is shaken up into little droplets, and that's when it's really good for the world. Shabayim b'tzimtzum, they come with a construction, with drop, in order that more water should be soaked up by the earth without the mudslides, right? The whole idea of the God contracting himself, of extracting his light, of his shefa, of his power in each place, in order that it should be accepted by people. People can handle the divinity, and they want, like, the souls won't leave the body, like happening by the army of Seventh Cherub. The idea of dividing up a river with 72 bridges. You make nice bridges in Iran, Persia, Iran. They make nice bridges, so they can make basically these arches inside the water. And since there's 72 bridges, they have like poles that go into the water, so that slows the water. That slows it's like a dam. So now, because it's a dam, now the water is not destructive. So the strictness of dividing up the water actually creates an end state of kindness. So it's gvura shebechesed. V'chein yisurim shel ava. There's also the idea of God giving pain to somebody with the intent of love, because it will bring them to a new level. For example, es ben yirtze, because when a father really wants his son, he wants his son to be successful, umiyasre, and he gives him a tough time. Sha'chesed nasa, not abuse. He's doing it for his benefit. Sha'chesed nasa belavush de midasaden, because the kindness the father is doing, it's in clothes of judgment, dafka. Have you ever thought about the fact that certain people went to the army and they said it's the best thing that happened to me and organized my life? So what is the army doing? It's like the parent that's being strict to the son, but it's causing an order. It's causing a discipline in the son. And therefore the end state is that the son is disciplined and successful in life. So the end state is kindness. The delivery is discipline. That's called gvura shebechesed, strictness with the intent of doing kindness. Parazedavka tek v'chesed. And this is actually the strength of kindness, even more than the essential of kindness. If you just have kindness alone, I'm a kind guy, like a grandparent giving chocolate to the grandchildren. I mean, that's his role. He just gives chocolate to the grandchildren. But will the grandparent get the end state where the child is supposed to be, where he's supposed to be, that he is a disciplined, productive, human individual? That only comes from giving a disciplined time. Another way of seeing this in the world is God brings the healing before the hit. In other words, whenever you see a certain disease in the world, you know that the healing to this disease exists. Commercial Customs, like it's written, Ki hu yach v'yarpenu, God will smite, hit, v'yarpenu, and then heal. In first light, why does the person need to be hit at all with this disease? Klal at all. However, alidei harafua, through the healing, yivra, he becomes healthy, v'yischazak, and he'll become yoseh, strong, more strong than he was before. Like a story of an old doctor that I know. He was active during the times of the AIDS scare in the 80s, and he has this system. What every year what does he do for the flu? He goes to the subway, New York City subway. He knows he's going to get it. He's going to feel something, and he knows that that was his inoculation, and then he goes to sleep, and he's fine. And that's how he exercises. He wants to get sick in order to become healed, in order to strengthen his immune system. So what did he do for COVID? And he's way older than me. So for COVID, he does the same thing as he does all the time, and he goes to expose himself to people. It's good for the immune system. Goes in a closed area with a lot of people. Old guy. And he said, for COVID, I felt something. I felt I got something from the exposure. And he went to sleep for 16 hours straight. He got up afterwards. He's fine. Because he's been exercising his immune system. He's fine. He did better than me. That's all he did, 16 hours of sleep. Because his immune system is always exercising, even at the older age. So that's the idea that through becoming sick and healing, the person becomes more robust. Because sickness is a strong judgment. And it will be passed over, like in other words, a person's going to pass the crisis through judgment, with the intent, through judgment with the intent of kindness, which that is the healing, midvarim akashim. And what we do, we actually use the medicine is like hard stuff. The medicine is not it's not usually medicine is something sharp. It's not food. I mean, nutrition. We're not speaking about a medicine. Is usually something is not supposed to be taken like food. The kahai gavna, and similar to things. There are similar things to this. Anytime we sweeten a judgment, b'sharsher dafker, we go to the source, we go to the end state, we go to the intent, we go to the source of it. Why do we have this judgment? It's for a better situation. This is judgment with the intent of doing kindness. Go to this intent. Dafka specifically, why? Because this judgment is the ultimate good. Ligber aladin, to overcome the judgment, ulam tikai, and to make that judgment something sweet and positive. Chulu vidal, like we explained, like this is enough for an understanding person. V'chol zeh, should we ask the questions now, Rabbi?
Yes, that's a great idea. Okay. Before going back to the first question here, sorry, one second. I don't know if you hear that background noise. Let me just try to stop that. Okay. From the Navy SEAL story, it sounds like meeting bitterness with sweetness yields peace. Is that the point?
Yeah, the point is to get to an end state, which is where you can apply the opposite, and we all agree, and that creates a situation of peace. We see there's two ways of doing it. Either it's because we're saying that you're like me, doesn't matter what our intent is, but you're like me. One guy is working for he's working for some religious organization from a different religion than the people that he's that he's with. He's in the Middle East. They're not like each other because but you know, we're both tough guys, so let's get along. That's the first way. The second way is we are opposites, but our intent is the same, and maybe the opposite can be a useful tool for the higher goal, for the higher intent.
Right, because the opposite, it's not a specific technique and formula, meaning to say it could be a different situation. It could be there's a lot of kindness going on and you need to bring some discipline to the situation.
Well, yeah, that I think. So how do you get other people involved in the same thing? You can either tell them let's nullify ourselves to the greater goal, or you can say, hey, you know, we're different, we work for different people, but let's get along now. Because we're similar, we're both tough guys. We both have beards. You know, he has a big long beard. I look similar to you. We're tough guys. That's the first way. The second way is more a higher way. It's more of an intelligent way. Let's, you know, this tool opposite of our end state is going to be good to get to the end state.
Okay. Next question. It sounds like okay. It sounds like the two ways of peace are one, self-nullification and expressing kindness to win the opposition over as an ally, and two, kindness in exchange for bitterness, and the opposition will be destroyed. Is that correct?
Well, he's just explaining that was a side point. The fact that the opposition was destroyed through the opposite, that's just showing that that doing something counterintuitive will reach the end state. That's not bittul. That's because we all agree on the end state. Well, the people involved. In other words, I want to be strict to this person, and I'm going to be counterintuitive. I'm going to be kind to them because the end state of this person needs to get judgment will happen. So I'm not nullifying myself. I'm just nullifying my presentation, what I do. I'm never giving up on the big goal. Whereas the first state, we don't care about the bigger goal. Let's just, we don't agree, but let's agree now. Because there's something in common between us.
Here's another thought here, question. I mean, the idea that God may show us kindness to quote unquote destroy us is concerning. What does that mean? How do we avoid that?
Look, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and they tell me I want, you know, they tell me a bunch of list of things which are going to make them happy, and I go around do the opposite of that, that means I just totally destroyed the relationship. So he's going to reflect that back to me. Okay, I'm going to also, I don't want to be in a continued relationship with you. So let me just give you the tip now. I'm going to give you an extra tip now just to get rid of you. I mean, how do you get rid of a really bad worker? What will be the most effective strategy? To get in a fight with somebody and then go to court and smoke claim court? I don't want to see them at all. They're a really bad worker. What's the fastest way I can get rid of them? Pay them an extra tip and say goodbye. And that's what God is saying doing to them. He's paying them extra. I'll pay you double, I'll pay you triple, just don't come here again. Let's part on good terms. So we're speaking about extreme people that are really doing the opposite of God's intents and the things that he asked for.
Okay. So it sounds like the way to find peace is to find common ground, either by acknowledging similarity in character or similarity in goal. Is that correct?
Similarity in character, that's the first one, Bittel, or similarity in goal. Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's what happens in Atzilus, in the divine way of making him function, and we can actually harmonize with what goes along with that. And I like those words, similarity in character, even though we have opposite of characters, and or similarity of intent. Yeah, very good, very good, very concise way of saying that.
Okay, I'm thinking that way we should pause for this week because we have this chapter we're only halfway through it, I think.
Okay.
Because it's already getting on to 9 o'clock here.
Okay, great. Now, I might have to leave soon, but I'm gonna stay for a little while.
Okay, so I'll stop the recording, start again. And by the way, if you want to pipe in something about the parsha after I start speaking, you could do that.